Welcome, one and all, to this pre-recorded writing sprint launch. We have created this to support head teachers in schools who are going to be delivering the writing alignment session over the coming weeks. Hopefully on the screen you can see myself. It's James Busey, QIO, who's leading on curriculum development work this week, and I'm joined by Dawn Taylor and Elaine McKendry. Elaine and Dawn will be leading the majority of this presentation. So at different times, you will see one of the three of us on the screen. But if we're not speaking, we'll turn the camera off just to avoid any distractions. Okay, so before we dive in, I just wanted to bring you back to a few key thoughts around our curriculum development activity. We are now on to sprint 3. You've done your oracy sprint, you've done your reading sprint, and now we're on to the writing sprint. But depending upon how the sprints are going, you may have different feelings about where you are at on that journey. You may be wonderfully expectant and feeling like this person in the middle, but you also may feel like this person in the top corner. And perhaps you feel like you're being dragged along by your school leader to complete these sprints. Either way, we just need to recognize that what we're asking of you is significant, but not unachievable. We're asking you to engage with the content of our new curriculum frameworks, and we're asking you to take some time to reflect on them and to feedback. And the feedback is so important. We are tweaking, we are fine-tuning so that for August 2024, we're ready to start using these frameworks in our schools. And your feedback is so valuable in what that final product looks like. So hopefully these sprints actually feel like a collective task. We're all in it, we're all doing it, and you are supported along the way. So a bit like in a marathon where you've got the water stations, hopefully you feel that there are people around you supporting you in this activity. But we cannot deny the fact that it is a big ask. We're doing a lot this year. We're excited about what we're doing, and we thank you for your ongoing participation as we now get ourselves ready for the writing sprint, which is part of our new breakthrough curriculum. The breakthrough curriculum, which is part of the SBCway, where we want to get that clarity, that consistency. We want to get increased collaboration. We want to release creativity. And then we've got the importance of fifth one of challenge, making sure that we're challenging our pupils and challenging ourselves. Breakthrough, we want to ensure that we are providing the absolute best for our learners, harnessing wisdom collectively, looking to how we close the gap, ensuring what we offer is built on the best evidence, the art and science of teaching and how we deliver it. And finally, the curriculum of 4 parts. In terms of that breakthrough for writing and literacy overall, this quote from the UNESCO in 2006 is really important. They said a few years back that literacy for all is at the heart of basic education for all. And creating literate environments and societies is essential for achieving the goals of eradicating poverty, reducing child mortality, curbing population growth, achieving gender equality, and sustainable development, peace, and democracy. That is huge, and it just shows the impact that literacy has. And that is why we are unashamedly putting literacy at the heart of our SBCway breakthrough curriculum. Just imagine the potential if we can get our literacy curriculum right. And on that note, we're going to start thinking about what our writing curriculum looks like. There's a lot of content to think about. We have thought very, very deeply about our writing curriculum. We have wrestled with lots of different ideas, but are confident that what we're putting forward is strong and will enable our learners to have an excellent curriculum experience. And what we're aiming for is, by all the hard work being done centrally, that then releases bandwidth within our schools so that you can deliver this creatively. And then you can go on and think about other things, and we can tick off that literacy curriculum and can really start exploring that wider curriculum and the wider experience for our pupils. So we're going to dive in. Don't forget, we've got a few quiz questions throughout the course of this session. We need you to stay alert. We need you to be thinking. So at intervals throughout this presentation, you will be given a quick fire quiz. Don't panic. You're not going to need to lose any sleep about it. But there will be 3 options for each question, 1, 2, 3, and in your schools, all you need to do is tell the person who's leading this presentation which answer you think is correct. So look out for the quick quiz questions as we go through. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my co-hosts as they lead us through this afternoon's writing launch.
Thank you, James. First thing that we looked at, and we know that writing is a complex process, and it's been compared back in 2008 to a game of chess, complex and requiring practice. So for example, in chess, I know that the bishop can move diagonally, the rook can move horizontally or vertically, and that the queen can move horizontally, vertically, or diagonally across the board. But that does not make me a chess master. So likewise with writing, our learners know what the writing experience requires. They know that it needs to have content. They know that it needs vocabulary, spelling, structure, punctuation. But like in a game of chess, having to focus on all these complicated things at once within a busy classroom environment is complex. And so it requires practice to become a writer, and it requires motivation. So that's our job, to provide motivation and practice. Thank you, James. So what makes a good piece of writing? The finished piece we see is just the tip of the iceberg, but there is a lot going on under there, not least the confident application of the tools for writing, but what our learner background knowledge is, what life experiences they can draw on to write. Are they engaged in the topic? Have they had access to high quality examples and dialogue before we ask them to write? If I can say it, I can write it. It's an adage that is used quite often. And the opportunity for ongoing improvement throughout the writing process, that it's not just a one-off experience, but there needs to be opportunity for our learners to improve their writing as they go through peer, teacher, self-assessment, feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. So I don't know if we have any Star Wars with us this afternoon, but we're going to just have a quick look at some simple sentences and consider what Yoda might say as alternatives. So the first one here is, you are in grave danger. So just along with your colleagues, have a little think about that. How would Yoda phrase that? Thanks, James. Okay, so well done if you got that one right. Grave danger you are in, you would say. And the next one, I will meditate on this. Just have a wee think. What would Yoda say? And he would say, meditate on this, I will. So we're thinking here around syntax, and syntax refers to the proper arrangement of words in a phrase or sentence. And this is something that we're exposed to in terms of our oral language. So as native English speakers, we hear this when we're very small, and it's modelled to us through the adults that are in our life. So there's a real link here with our Odyssey curriculum that we've been advocating as part of our sprints. If we lived in a house with Yoda modelling the syntax in that way, it's most likely that we would also be making these incorrect grammatical errors. So children who are exposed to this really good quality of language, and if we're providing a real literacy-rich environment within our classrooms, and where there's opportunities to talk and discuss, is really going to have an impact on children's written syntax, and they will replicate that as they come to take part in written activities. When we're thinking about syntax in its very simplest form, you can see there where it says English syntax, we have a very, very simple sentence which would have a subject, a verb, and an object. And these are ones that are generally more easy for children to replicate in their writing. However, we know that there's much more complicated sentences, and writing is actually very complicated. So we want to really build up children's confidence in their syntax, from simple sentence work into compound sentence work, and then into much more complex sentences. And this is something, again, that can be done through oral language and that link with the Odyssey curriculum, but also through that explicit teaching. We also know that when children become more sophisticated writers, that actually they have to then learn the subtleties and the real sort of complex sense that actually sometimes we write in a slightly different way from how we talk. The language can become more sophisticated. Sometimes it has to be written in a more formal way. So again, these are all the components that we need to have within our writing curriculum to allow children to really see the subtleties and the complexity of writing when they're at those later stages. Thanks, James. So this was a nice image that was shared to us from Education Scotland, and it really just sort of summarises some of the things we were talking about there around writing, the sense of writing being an output. And actually, if we're going to put in terms of the inputs, a really rich Odyssey curriculum, lots of opportunities for children to read and to be observing other authors, demonstrating good quality syntax and good quality vocabulary, it's really going to have a direct impact in the quality of writing that our children produce. So something to consider within your schools as part of the writing launch this afternoon is really thinking about coming back to our roots, really, around the 4 contexts of learning. And you can see those 4 contexts on the screen just now. This is really the overarching purpose of our curriculum. And something to do within your schools as a worthwhile task would be really to be to look at these 4 contexts for learning and think about the opportunities that you're providing for children to write within those 4 contexts. Similarly, within the 4 capacities, again, a really good thing just to come back to that, thinking about the ultimate outcome of our curriculum, what we would like our children to achieve at the end of their experiences, and something to consider around the 4 capacities. This is a sample on the screen here that was done alongside a primary 7 class in Duns Primary, and there's a blank 4 capacities sheet within the Launchpad if you want to carry out that task either across your school or within your individual classrooms. So we've talked a little bit about that real holistic approach to literacy, and it's really important that that's been embedded within our writing curriculum, that we're seeing those clear links within all aspects of literacy, but also across the whole curriculum. You can see also within the image here that when we're looking at developing literacy within our schools, that this isn't just looking at our curriculum pathway. There's a whole lots of areas to consider, and we shared this as part of the reading launch as well. So that's that real sense that we really explore the planning, the teaching and pedagogy, how children learn, what the assessment will look like, how we're moderating and writing. So we really have taken into consideration a lot of components when we've been looking to explore and develop the writing curriculum. We're going to move on shortly to some audits, and the audits will talk sort of almost help you navigate your way through that visual diagram that you've just seen there with the various components. Just a wee reminder, we have created as part of the SBCway team a writing proficiency scale. This is rating from 1 to 5. It's really important that you're honest within your audits. This isn't a way of us checking up on people or trying to catch people out. We just really want an honest reflection of where people feel they are, and that will gauge the professional learning that we can put in place to support practitioners across the authority. So we're moving on the scale from number 1 in anticipating, where you feel maybe not as confident in certain components of teaching writing, and up to number 5, extending, where you feel your practice is, you're very, very secure in your practice, and could use your practice and your expertise to support colleagues across the authority. So we're now going to ask you to complete the audit tool. The one on the left-hand side here was completed as part of the Head Teacher Engagement Day by your senior leaders within your school. And it's the one on the right-hand side now that we'd like you to complete. So we're going to ask the person who's leading the meeting today just to pause and to ask you to scan the QR code and to complete the questionnaire. And this should take roughly around sort of 7 to 10 minutes to complete. So we'll ask you just to do that now. Okay, thank you folks for your input there. It really is important that, that we can analyse the audits and support you in moving forward with the writing curriculum. We have created 2 other audit tools that may be useful for you to use within your school. One is the learner engagement audit for children to complete around how they feel about writing within their school and their classrooms. That's on the left-hand side there. Engaged roughly from around, we would be recommending P3-4 up to primary 7. And the one on the right-hand side there is one that you may consider sharing with your families around how they feel about supporting their child with writing.
Okay, so this is just very quickly, we're about to go and dive into the different parts of the curriculum. And when we talk about the 4 parts, we're talking about the methodology, we're talking about the steps to success, the assessment, and then the structure. And everything that we're about to speak about is available on the Launchpad. So that's the SBCway Launchpad, and you're looking to click on Core Business. Within Core Business, you're then looking to click on Breakthrough Curriculum. Within Breakthrough Curriculum, you're looking for Literacy, and within Literacy, you're looking for Writing. And then that would take you to the Writing Padlet, which has all the content which we're about to explore with you now. Thanks, Dawn.
Thanks, James. So once you have managed to navigate your way to the Writing Padlet, this is what you will see on the screen, and we're going to explore now the first column, looking at really the sort of underpinning methodology, which has been very much used by the curriculum team to pave the way in terms of the writing curriculum. So as part of exploring the methodology, we have explored several texts. These are ones that we would recommend and have shared with your head teachers that we would recommend perhaps to have within your professional libraries within school. The Writing Revolution, there is an instructional approach to improving writing skills, and we're going to go on and talk about that just in a few slides' time. Similarly with the Writing Rope, you'll remember back to the reading launch with Scarborough's Reading Rope, a very similar concept, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail just in a few minutes. A couple of other books to share. On the Right Track, a really practical book, a really useful one for classroom teachers with real practical tools for the classroom. And the Alex Quigley series, Closing the Writing Gap in particular, a very easy read and has really useful chapters, again, with practical things for the classroom. It has an interesting section around writing across various disciplines, for example, writing like a scientist, writing like a historian, which was a really nice, just something a little bit different to explore about writing across IDL. So firstly, moving to the simple view of writing. Quite ironic when we've been talking about how complicated writing is, thinking about our chess and our iceberg. However, this was created, this image on the screen here was updated back in 2016. This is quite an old piece of research that was done, and I guess trying to take all that complication and confusion and the complexity of writing and trying to really explore that across 3 main components. So you can see there our working memory and our cognitive flow in the centre of all that, and that's the ultimate goal for us as practitioners and teachers, that we have that within our learners, that they have really embedded the process of writing. We can then see the 3 points of the triangle. So the one at the top is around text generation, and that's broken down into word level, sentence level, and text level, and that's really about how children are putting their ideas and their structure and flowing that into text. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see transcription skills. So these are sort of related to marks that children make on the page, and that's broken down into handwriting, into spelling, and into punctuation. And finally, on the other tip of the triangle, we have executive functions. Now, this is the real higher order aspect of writing, that real sort of critical thinking. And a lot of our learners can find this really challenging. This is about how we take our initial ideas, how we plan what we're going to say, how we actually get it down in draft, how we edit that. And that can be a really, really complicated process. And particularly children with barriers to learning can find that aspect of writing really, really challenging. Thanks, James. So this was a slide shared to us as part of the National Improvement Writing Model. It's a really useful one just to take the simple view of writing really and just extend our thinking around that a little bit further. So we can see in the centre, we still have our 3 core components of text generation, the transcription skills, and the executive functions. But underpinning that and surrounding that is really thinking about encouraging that purpose and motivation to write. And that's what you as teachers and experts in your classroom are very good at. It's about thinking about how we allow for those creative opportunities, how we motivate children and make writing really exciting and really bringing that experience to life. They also have underpinned how the curriculum organisers link to the various components. So you can see there the organising and using information, linking in with executive functions, the transcription skills directly linking with tools for writing, the text generation, looking at how we create text, and then that purpose and motivation linking directly with enjoyment and choice. So I think for us as a team, really making sure that we're covering all the components of Curriculum for Excellence as part of our thinking was a really important process to go through. So we had a quick look there at the writing rope as a key text by Joan Sedita. The writing rope is really consists of different strands that are all essential in the writing process. And it's these essential components and the interconnected aspect of these elements that will really help to develop, improve and strengthen learners' writing. Similarly, as I said before, to the Scarborough's reading rope model. This philosophy or methodology also looks at a hierarchy of writing skills, and you can see right at the top there is that critical thinking, and that really relates to the executive skills that we talked about in the simple view, and is something that we've given a lot of thought to as part of this process. Okay, so this is the Hockman method, another important piece of research linked to the Writing Revolution text. Judith Hockman really advocates that sentences are the real building block of writing, and that we need to spend a lot of time exploring sentence level work. And if we think back to the slide with Yoda, and we talked about the syntax and how that we need to move from that simple sentence work up to compound and up to complex sentences. We can be working on sentence level work with our children right through primary school and into the BGE. And often we can be in quite a hurry to move on to paragraph level and have the children writing, big, huge content pieces. But we have to not forget the importance of that sentence level work. And that's the big message that comes through from this text. You can see on the light bulb there that we're moving from the sentence building blocks at the bottom. She then promotes looking at planning and outlining of paragraph work before we then ask children to then write paragraphs. And similarly, then we model and demonstrate really clearly about building up multi-paragraph outlines and explicitly teaching that before we ask children to move on to write multiple paragraphs. And with all of those pieces of the light bulb in place, we can then really look at much more sophisticated writers as they move through into secondary school and then off to further education. So similarly to the reading launch, we have taken all of that information and really thought about an SBC model for methodology, and we have created this infographic to demonstrate that. So the triangle in the centre really referring to the children's working memory and that real security in their writing skills. You can see the 3 triangles that we talked about before from a simple view, and we've added some little icons in there so that people can access these resources really clearly and can see exactly which piece of the jigsaw, if you like, that we're referring to in some of the materials that we've produced. So text generation with the word, sentence and text level. Our executive functions, we've broken that down into 6 key areas. And then within transcription, looking at the spelling, the handwriting, and punctuation and so on. Underpinning all of that is that real importance of the holistic view to literacy. So we have included oracy and reading being a really key part of the writing process. And also that knowledge-rich curriculum. We know that children have to build up a context before they write, and the more knowledge that they have around a subject area, and they have that real sense of what the context is about and the knowledge that goes with that, the more sophisticated their writing will be. And all of that, all of these skills will then be practiced across a wide range of genres, and it's important that we allow children to be exposed to that wide range. And at the bottom there, that purpose and motivation to write. So all of that information, all of the methodology, all of the different theories are all been summarised in our methodology document. So when you go onto the Padlet, onto the Launchpad, you will see a summary of all that information. You can see there the writing rope and sort of various elements that are coming through. So if you want to dive a wee bit deeper into the thinking and the research behind some of the things, it's all there for you.
Okay, so quick quiz time. As I said, as we go through this presentation and this content, we want to make sure you're thinking. So quick quiz, just for fun. Please don't lose any sleep over this. Question 1, the hashtag SBCway approach to writing is influenced by what? Is it number 1, the simple triangle of writing? Number 2, the simple view of writing? Or number 3, the simple mode of writing? The SBCway approach to writing is influenced by what? 1, 2, or 3. Have a shout, have a think, and call out to the person who's hosting this meeting. And then hopefully you'll know that the answer was number 2, the simple view of writing. Okay, quick quiz done. Get ready for the next one shortly. And I'll hand back over to co-presenters as we carry on through the content of our curriculum.
Okay, thank you, James. Now that we've explained our methodology and where our thinking is coming from, we're going to move on to the second column on our Launchpad, our steps to success, which we're hoping that by now you're becoming more familiar with through engagement with our oracy input and our reading input. Thank you, James. So looking at our steps to success, what will you expect to find there? On our Launchpad, within our writing steps to success, you'll find the early and first level progression pathways which have been developed and almost finalised. Second and third level are still a work in progress, but that is to come. You'll also find a phonics and spelling expectation pathway and support tools for early and first, because we are aware that as spelling and phonics stand, a lot of schools will already have something very robust in place, but it's to draw together the expectation across the borders, across our authority, of where we would expect our learners to be at the end of each stage. You'll also find some support for genre-specific writing and materials that we hope that you can use to support classroom practice. As it stands at the minute, recount writing and report writing and the suite of materials that are there to support are complete and on the Padlet. The others are works in progress, as is our development and guidance materials for modelling and scaffolding toolkits that will help to support pedagogy in writing. You will get some time to explore the Padlet, to explore the Launchpad and the writing step to success in a bit. Thank you. Right, early level guidance, mark making, pre-writing skills. That is all something that we need to remember just the importance of. This is just a reminder of the important role that early years has to play in the development of our writing and building solid foundations upon which our learners can grow. In terms of writing, it's not just in the mark making and the development of fine motor or the pre-writing skills, but very much in the high quality interactions, the modelling and development of oral language and rich vocabulary, because like we've said earlier, if it's modelled, if you lived in a house with Yoda, you would speak like Yoda. So it's that modelling of expectation that's really, really important, and giving our younger learners the opportunity to develop their oral language and create a rich vocabulary through recounting an experience or sharing a story. As we move forward, the curriculum team and the ELT team will collaborate to enhance this wealth of resources and expertise that's already out there on the portal and within the ELC team. So please remember that that is still there and is still an important resource for us to use. Thank you, James.
Thanks, Lorraine. So you can see on the screen here some samples of our Step Success pathway. As Elaine has said, this is now finalised for first level. Similarly to the reading first level pathway that we shared at the reading launch, the pathways are split into three main sections. So the first one is looking at building that writing culture and environment and linking to enjoyment and choice. That's the one on the top left. We then start looking at developing skills for writing. So this is a breakdown of that sentence level construction that we talked about from the writing revolution, the text generation, looking at how we build grammatical skills, punctuation, and so on. These are all the tools that children will need to become good writers. We then move on to our third section, which is creating independent and engaged writers, independent and engaged writers. So this is how children now apply all those skills that they've learned into context. And this is the real test of children's ability to be able to apply and get that real rich experiences in writing. This section of the document is split into two different sections. The first one on the bottom left-hand side there is looking at the executive skills. That's thinking about that critical skills. And we've split that into 6 different sections. You can see the wee brain icon from our infographic coming into play there. And the second section there, thinking about independent engaged writers within a variety of genres. And the sample on the screen there is a first level report writing overview that would support you as teachers to look at that development across first level. Within that, we're building in the executive skills. We're also building in the tools that are relevant for that specific genre. So hopefully you'll have a chance to explore that at the end of the session in a bit more detail. So moving on to the teaching of spelling, the SBCway is underpinned by an SSP approach, a systematic synthetic phonics approach. This has been a real collaboration for us with a lot of work looking outwards, and we have been linking with phonics and spelling consultants across Scotland to really make sure that we have an approach that we know is based on current thinking and practice. We have looked very closely at having that shared clarity around the terminology that we use when we think about phonics. So our decoding in our teaching of reading and our encoding in the teaching of spelling. And the the blending and the segmenting that you can see are the strategies that we would use within our classes to teach those two components. Moving through the spelling, we're thinking of moving through from the complex code. We're introducing obviously the code, then the complex code, and then we will be developing and are currently developing second level spelling, where we're looking at morphology, etymology, and orthography as part of that. So this is an example of the first level shared expectations for spelling. As Elaine has said, we know that schools currently have their own, some schools have very strong phonics progression pathways that they are using. However, this is a shared expectation tool so that we can have that shared clarity about what the expectations would be at the end of early level, and then again at the end of first level. We know that some phonics progression pathways that people use from commercial resources do stop at primary 2 or primary 3. So this one moving to the end of first level hopefully will be really useful to see how you can extend your current phonics approaches moving through into primary 4. Along with the progression shared expectation documents, we have created some phonics mats, which you can see on the right-hand screen there. These can be used either for display, shared through iPads, or printed out and laminated as part of desktop tools. So we've really tried to look at sort of child-friendly resources that you can pick up within your classrooms to use. We also have created these word lists which align with different sort of elements of the code. These were originally started as a piece of work in St Ronan's Primary School, so thank you to the practitioners there who started that piece of work, and they've then been further developed with the team to align with the shared expectations.
Now, looking at within our steps to success, we've also been looking at handwriting. And while there's arguments out there for and against teaching handwriting, our SBC message is that it should be explicitly taught, routinely practiced. And to help us do this, within the Launchpad, there will eventually be a set of resources of letter formation cards, as you can see there on the screen. Because whilst the well-received Caligo app can help with this routine practice, it's important to remember that teacher modelling and transferring the practice from screen to paper are very important in the teaching and development of handwriting. Thank you, James.
Okay, so that's the second section done. So quick quiz. Which progression pathways are live and ready? Is it number 1, early and first level, number 2, first and second level, number 3, second and third level? Shout out your answer to your host now. And you're right. Yes, at this moment in time, early and first level progression pathways are live and ready. Now, we have had some questions saying why aren't the others ready yet? And the answer to that is quite simple. There has been a huge amount of deep thinking about how best to structure the pathways. So what we've done is completed the first level offer is there and is what we're wanting feedback on, because if there's anything that we need to tweak and change, we can do that and then very quickly roll out the second pathway and progression. So early and first level is there and ready to go, and we're looking forward to getting feedback on that before we finalize what's going to be available for August. Okay, back to the team for part 3.
Thanks, James. So moving now into our third column and thinking about assessment. So the SBCway assessment approach is based on an asset-based model, where we're really focusing on what children and learners can do rather than what they can't do. And we've created a range of assessment tools. Some of them we're advocating from strong practice, and some we've created specifically to link with our progression pathway, and we're going to share some of those with you now.
Thank you, Dawn. Yeah, as Dawn said, asset-based assessment focuses on what our piece of writing that our children have produced has and not what it hasn't. So it focuses on and encourages what is good in a piece of writing. Asset-based assessment looks at what the final piece of writing has and not what is missing, meaning that we're identifying strengths and building on confidence of what our writers can do. But how can this help to move writing forward? The main benefit, one of the main benefits of asset-based assessment is the confidence that it builds. It focuses on strengths. So if a learner knows that they are very good with their vocabulary, then they don't need to focus, they don't need to waste time focusing on putting in vocabulary in the writing. So it gives them a bit of an incentive to focus on something that might need improvement. It can create a motivational environment for the children to write in, and it's based on a culture of constructive feedback so that our learners, yes, they are very, very confident in knowing what they can do, which leaves that space for learning what might need to be improved. And it's also a very good way of celebrating writing success. So we're matching writing to the intended learning rather than trying to match it to an overall year or benchmark. And that helps to build up a picture of an individual as a writer, gathering evidence, gathering that writing portfolio that we can then base our professional judgment on, working towards achievement of a level. Thank you, James. So another way to look at our writing is, and how we assess our writing, is through comparative judgment. So I'm sure many of you by now will have heard of Daisy Christodoulou and her no more marking and comparative judgment approach. No more marking is a comparative judgment writing assessment tool designed to evaluate written work by presenting writing in paired samples and asking for a judgment about which piece is better, which gives a more reliable judgment, because as humans, we are better at judging two things when we see them side by side. The advantages of no more marking and comparative judgment gives us an increased reliability because it's done as a team, so you get more than one opinion, more than one set of feedback on pieces of writing. And so by providing that feedback for improvement, it creates a consistency and it also creates a standard. It's a worthwhile tool for the moderation process and the way forward, I think, to help us create a bank of SBC good practice examples. Thank you.
At this point, I just want to come in and provide an offer to all schools linked into comparative judgment. Last year, we successfully ran a trial with a small number of schools that ran a comparative judgment assessment, and we are inviting all primary schools to consider this for primary 7 and also to possibly run it for primary 4. Head teachers know a bit more about this, and if you're interested, please get in touch and we can explore. But this would be running in the final term between March and May. It's very straightforward, but it's very, very interesting and provides a lot of useful insights into how your learners are achieving compared to other learners across the borders. So worth exploring. I'll come back to this again at the end. Thanks very much.
So as part of the SBCway writing curriculum, as we mentioned, we are creating assessment toolkits. This is a couple of samples on the page here from the first level toolkit. The one on the left-hand side is an assessment for phonics. This can be used to look at grapheme phoneme correspondence or to assess decoding or encoding. The one on the right-hand side is looking at sentence and paragraph level skills. So this is linked to directly linked to the steps of success and directly linked with the methodology around the light bulb, if we think back to that sentence level work and the importance of teaching, explicitly teaching and breaking down those skills. The assessments we're looking at creating in different formats for you to use within your schools. So there, for example, the sentence and paragraph level assessment there. There's one based for an individual child or learner. There's one for a group of learners, and there's also Excel versions. So we're really trying to look and explore creating tools for you to use within your schools that can be flexible and that you can have that autonomy over how you see fit best to use them. So as part of the assessment toolkit, we're also trying to build, as Elaine had talked about, building up that evidence bank for us to support our judgments, particularly when we're looking at whether a child has achieved a level at the end of primary 1, 4 and 7. So this is our genre overview for report writing that we shared before, a really useful tool also to sort of support your assessment judgment, to think, you know, what is it, what we're thinking from an asset-based point of view, what can the child do, where are they across the level within the various components and skills. And then, as Elaine had mentioned before, around providing examples as part of moderation. So we have created an example here on the screen for the amazing red squirrel. This is a piece of writing to showcase a good example, if you like, of what a quality report would look like at the end of first level. And that can be used as part of moderation processes within your classrooms, across stages, across school level, or across the cluster. And then thinking broadly around that achievement of a level. So we really are looking to build up evidence of our learners through our assessments across the 3-year process of a level. This was an overview that was shared to us from Education Scotland, where there was a real emphasis coming through from the messages from them that we don't need to be ticking every single box to say that a child has achieved a level. So if we go back to that sentence level assessment checklist, we don't have to have a tick in every single box. What we're looking for is enough evidence and a real broad overview of what children can do. So do we have enough evidence around their narrative text work? Do we have enough evidence looking at discursive or non-fiction texts? And are we hitting some of those key indicators within our benchmarks? So we really are, again, thinking, bringing it right back full circle really to that asset-based assessment, thinking about the evidence that we build up for our learners to allow us to become more confident in our own professional judgments.
Okay, and that brings us to the end of part 3. So quick quiz number 3. What approach to assessment are we advocating? Again, don't lose sleep over this, just for a bit of fun. Is it number 1, an asymmetric based approach? Is it 2, an achievement based approach? Or is it 3, an asset based approach? Time starts now. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Share your answer with your host. And yes, the answer is number 3. We're advocating an asset-based approach to assessment. Okay, so well done. Quick quiz number 3 complete. I'm going to hand back to the team for the final part of this afternoon's curriculum launch.
Okay, so we're now moving into the to the 4th column here around the recommended structures. Within this section, you'll hopefully find a lot of practical things that you can use within your classrooms, and we're just going to share some of those with you now. So as we mentioned when we explored the steps of success, the structure is sort of split into 3 sections, a story of 3 parts, if you like, where we have that importance of building up the culture and the environment, the ethos within your classrooms, but also across the school for writing, and that passion for writing, thinking of that purpose and motivation that we looked at earlier, the skills and the tools that we need for writing, and then finally the independent and engaged writers. And we're looking at creating guidance and support tools for each of these 3 sections. So first of all, thinking about that writing culture and environment, we We've shared some of the key things that you might consider when you're exploring this, whether we're looking at writing opportunities through play, or how are we engaging families in writing across our school. But there's some key messages there, as well as within the steps of success, and we will build and add to these as we grow and develop. Within the skills for writing, just one key document here to share as a sample. We've really looked at breaking down what do we mean by word level, sentence level, and text level, just so we have that real shared understanding across the authority when we're talking about these components, about what we mean. So these are the kind of tools that we're creating just to hopefully support teachers in their thinking and to have that real shared clarity across the authority. Similarly, thinking about the executive functions under creating independent and engaged writers, we've broken down that writing process, if you like, into 6 key elements, which you can see going across in the arrows, from preparing to write and the sort of building the context and all the preparations that need to be done, planning and outlining. Children will then draft, revise, where they're really exploring the content and improving the content, the editing, where they're really focusing on their technical skills, and then looking about how children then get that opportunity to present their writing and really celebrate success. One thing that you'll find on the launch pad is a little infographic called the Writing Road. That's a really nice visual that the team have created just to talk through the sort of 6 processes, the 6 elements of the process, and just a nice way to either share within your class or even just for yourself as developing your own skills and your own professional learning, but also can be shared with the learners as well.
Thanks, Dawn. The next few slides are just a few examples of what materials that are already in existence and what we intend to keep working on to support each section of the progression, building a writing culture and environment, developing skills for writing, and creating independent writers. These can be used in whatever way you deem fit, as support table mats for the children, as wall displays, whichever way. It's just something that we think and hope can make life in the classroom easier to help with the implementation of our new breakthrough writing curriculum and pathways. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. So we have been collaborating quite a bit with a lot of outside agencies in terms of exploring barriers to learning. You know, we all in our classrooms will have learners that find writing quite challenging for a number of reasons. So anything that we have collaborated with, or anything that we're exploring around supporting children with barriers to learning, has also been added onto the Launchpad. Examples of this would be the promotion of Colour for Semantics from our speech and language colleagues, the Right to Learn series there, supporting children who struggle with their fine motor skills. And we've also worked quite closely with the Inspire team, looking at how we use the iPads to support children that are really finding writing challenging, for example, using the text-to-speech model. And we are looking at creating some professional learning opportunities for practitioners to engage in some of these different components.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of part 4, quick quiz, and it's the final quick quiz. We spoke there about the proposed structure. So which 3 words in the correct order best describe the proposed structure? Did we talk about skills, then culture, then independence? Or number 2, was it culture and then skills and then independence? Or was it number 3, independence and then culture and then skills? Have a think, call out your number, and let's see how you get on. Tick tock, tick tock. Correct. Yes, it was number 2. It is culture, skills, and independence. And that brings us to the end of the input. Totally aware that there's been a lot that we've asked you to think about. We've spoken at you and we've given you a lot of information. And what we need you to do now, what your host will provide you with, is now time to explore the content. We've given you the messages, and you're now going to go and have a look at all the content on the Launchpad, on the Padlet. And your host will make sure you have the links to that. But hopefully you're very familiar with the Launchpad by now anyway. You'll then be asked to answer some questions. And in essence, you're answering 3 questions. You're going to have a look at all the content from our proposed writing framework, and you're going to answer the questions around things that you're already doing that align with our new framework. Then you're going to think about things that maybe that you're not doing or are doing differently. That's question 2. And then question 3 is just general feedback. Are there things that you think are working particularly well? Are there things that you think could be better, and some fine tuning that we could make? And again, your host will direct you to where to send these answers, but you've either got an online option or a Word document option. But before you go away and do that, I must keep you for 2 more minutes, because it's really important that you are aware of some professional learning opportunities that support our writing developments. The first one, taking place on the 2nd of February, very soon, is an exciting opportunity being led by the Writing Revolution team. They are zooming in from the United States of America, so please do join in on the 2nd of February. And then the second one is a no more marking opportunity. To find out more about that, on the 23rd of April. We've then got an accessibility tools led by our Inspire team on the 11th of March. If you have any questions about anything from our writing talk curriculum, please get in touch with Dawn. Her email is on the screen there. And for general professional learning, the SBC Professional Learning blog is available. The QR code is there. Make sure you keep abreast of all the options that are available to you. Finally, just as a reminder, the comparative judgment is available to your schools. If you want to find out how your learners are doing compared to other primary 7s and other primary 4s across the borders, this is a really interesting experiment to take part in. It is not a definitive answer, but it will help you know how your learners are doing compared to other learners of the same age and stage. So talk to your head teacher, and if you're interested, then your head teacher can get in touch with me to find out more. So thank you so much to Dawn, thank you so much to Elaine, and thank you to the wider curriculum team for all their effort in putting this together. A huge amount of thinking, a huge amount of energy has gone into getting us set up and setting us on the right course to offering an outstanding writing curriculum so that our children can become fully literate and they can have success as they go on into this big wide world, as we set out at the start, based on what UNESCO need for our learners. So thank you so much. Over to your host now as you engage in the Launchpad, explore the content, and then complete your alignment questions so that we can then feedback and tweak in readiness for August this year. Thanks everybody. Thanks for your time. Thanks Dawn. Thanks Elaine.